Telecom operators have been vocal about the mounting pressures that they face, citing rising operational costs, including energy, infrastructure, maintenance, and the devaluation of the naira, underlined in red 3 times. So, many are not surprised that the NCC, the Nigerian Communications Commission, have approved a 50% increase in Telecoms tariff. And many are also not surprised that that 50% increase has sparked a lot of discussion to a point where NLC is threatening some action.
And NatComs as well.
That's where we're at now. But some are saying, couldn't we have done this thing gradually? Well, we have a panel this morning to discuss that. So we have Dr. Yele Okeremi, who is joining us via Zoom, and he is Chief Executive Officer of Precise Financial Systems Limited. And we expect Chief Deolu Ogumbanjo, the National President of the National Association of Telecom Subscribers, NatComs, to join us any minute from now. Good morning, Dr. Okeremi.
Morning, Alero, and it's not out of place to say Happy New Year to you.
That would be in order. Same to you. So, Doctor, this 50% increase, with all that is happening to Nigerians since middle of 2023, everything has gone up, salaries have not gone up, and one more pressure. You now have to pay more, 50% more than you have been paying to talk and to browse. Couldn't we have done this gradually?
Well, good morning once again. There are 2 ways to look at this. We can look at it from our current situation, and we also can look at it from what could have been. If you wanted to take a look at it from what could have been, then you have to start from the genesis. How did we get where we are? So, for instance, the telecoms players are saying, and rightly so, that their cost of doing business has significantly. Last year, I saw the accounts of MTN. They declared a significant amount of money as losses. And this was due significantly to FX losses. Energy costs are rising. In fact, labor costs are in a way rising, whichever way you want to look at it, because there are certain things that employers don't talk about. They talk about it in low tones. But if you work in my sector, which is the same sector that the telecoms work in, a lot of your smart hands are out of the country now, and you still need to keep them. So a lot of people are, in a way, paying foreign currency staff to produce local goods. So when you take a look at all this, the bottom line is that increased cost is upon the telecoms players. And it will be impossible, short of introducing the subsidy, to expect them to be able to continue to do business at the same prices that they are doing it. It's virtually impossible. But if you wanted to take a look at it from the standpoint of what could have been, perhaps the genesis of all these high spiraling costs are basically factor costs. And when I say factor costs, we have mentioned them, energy costs, and these are people that are significantly dealing with foreign exchange denominated inputs. So these 2 major factors have happened upon them. The rate of the dollar moved from 400 and something to today 1,500, but that's about 2.5x. So if you take a look at these cost factors, perhaps if these cost factors hadn't increased the way they increased upon all the players and upon all Nigerians, then we might be saying that, oh, the tariff increase by the telecoms might have also been graduated. But to the extent that the costs have increased significantly upon all of us, absolutely no way any business person would not increase.
So essentially, Dr. Okeremi, you think it's a good idea for the telcos to increase the tariffs now?
By 50%.
I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm saying it is imperative.
Okay. Because essentially you are saying as a businessman, that's exactly what you would have done. Anyway.
Before you go, Chief, Doctor, my question was, I didn't say that they were not due for an increase, but 50% in one fell swoop on a people who are already struggling with dwindling disposable income?
Listen, Adero, I empathize even with myself because, you see, when I speak, this game also affects me directly, particularly in the sector that I work. But when I look at it from a realistic business standpoint, when we say 50% in one fell swoop, the bottom line is this is upon them. The options that are open to them are, like I said, continued subsidy. I don't know any businessman that will continue to subsidize the market. Invariably, what that will lead to is insolvency, which is equivalent to individual terms bankruptcy.
Okay.
Or,
Okay. Okay. We've since been joined by Chief Deolu Ogunbanjo, who is the president of the National Association of Telecoms Subscribers, NATCOMS.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being with you.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
We're here again.
Again and again and again.
What is NATCOMS saying about this increase?
Are you with the NLC on this?
No, but I'll get there. NLC should understand that this is a business, it's an investment. And the approach, the knee-jerk approach of protest, no. The government is trying to woo investors into the country, and there you are with this protest. It may be scary for investors to come in. Beyond that is the fact that you have to also engage both government and the telcos, and that they haven't done before, all this protest moves. So for us, NCC should play it cool so that businesses can still flow in, foreign direct investments can still...
You mean NLC?
NLC should please...
Okay, so are you with the NCC then for this 50% increase?
Partly yes, partly no. NCC has increased with 50%. We are saying 10% will just be fine. We also do know that the banks are owing the telecoms industry through these USSD charges. They must have deducted it from us.
Oh, they do? Immediately?
Immediately.
I demonstrated it last week. It was immediate. 7 naira.
They do. They now keep that and they do not pay the telcos. It runs into billions. Indeed. Why should the banking industry now stifle the telecoms industry? That's wrong. Again, within themselves, telecoms A will be owing telecoms B. They don't pay themselves.
So interconnect fees.
Interconnect fees. Thank you very much, ma'am. So they do owe themselves, so they should pay themselves. If you now put all this together, this is funds coming into the telecom companies. Again, we are now saying, okay, if that is not enough, a 10% increase will not hurt much. Still hurting, but it's not going to hurt much. And again, if that is not enough, do IPOs. I know some of them have gone to the market already, to the stock market. Do IPOs, initial public offerings, go to the capital market, stock exchange, raise funds. Nigeria they want to invest in telecoms. They will invest. So if all that is not enough, then go to stock market, or you capitalize or do IPOs, and then you have funds to develop, to do good quality services, which we have been yearning for all these years. Yes.
But, Chief, let's stay with that quality of service.
Yes.
I have interviewed you a few times before.
Yes.
Even before this this platform.
Yes.
And the question remains consistently. In fact, you are a lot more vehement on this quality of service thing. Have you seen any improvement? Because it's just like, look, you guys have no choice. We are the only devil you know. There is no angel coming from anywhere. You're stuck with us. That's essentially it. You get out of the city or urban Nigeria, there are some networks that don't work. In fact, some networks don't work at all in some areas. To the extent that people now have to use dual SIM cards. They have dual SIM phones. Do they have to use dual SIM cards?
Or they carry 3 phones.
Or they carry 3 phones, 5 in some cases. So has the QoS made any? Because one of the things we hear is, okay, with this increase, we'll be able to improve QoS.
We have been grappling with poor quality of service all these years. And yet, we still patronize them.
We didn't have a choice.
Precisely. Though you had a choice, you could port from one, there is mobile number portability, one operator to the other, but it's the same.
That's the point. So what's the point of porting?
I'm sorry, it's the same. So why do you want to port? Although, it depends on where you are. There are some underserved areas which, the presence of a particular operator may not be that dominant, so you could port. And sometimes, although thank God that government has done something, they've declared the base stations and all telecoms infrastructure as critical national assets. That's very good, meaning that at least it will be under surveillance by the security agencies. So with that, I do believe telecoms will now come up with a number of things to now improve quality of service. But to now task and overburden the subscriber to say 50% increase is what we are saying is a no-no.
Okay. Dr. Kiremi, you heard Chief Ogubanjo talk about this, and he's proposing 10% instead of 50%, which I don't know. I think it has already been activated. What are your thoughts? We always say this thing, what goes up doesn't come down, even though occasionally we've seen that moved a bit. What are your thoughts?
Well, I heard Chief Ogubanjo, and like I said, I empathize with myself and the rest of Nigerians. But the honest truth of the matter is that I need to run the figures first, because I'm not just going to speak in the air. But if I run the figures, if it were possible, yes, it's a smart idea. However, one thing he said, and I chuckled when he said it, was, the telecoms should go into the capital markets. But one thing that he didn't quite consider in saying that is that the capital market is an investor's marketplace. And investors are looking for where they would have growth, where they would create wealth. Now, if you are asking me to invest my money in a business that is dying, then you realize that I'm not likely to be inclined to doing so. Any attempt to try to constrain the telecoms from growing is a death knell. And let me say something here. I think it's not out of place for me to say this. Yes, it's okay for Nigeria or any other nation to have bodies like the NCC. It's absolutely good, which is supposed to regulate. However, my opinion of the regulations should be limited to 3 areas. 1, making telecoms understand that issues of national security are paramount. So they should be regulated with a view to creating national security. And we talk about national security in so many ways to ensure that everything we are doing is secure. Secondly, issues of national development must be taken into consideration. Issues of national development suggesting that we can say to them that we expect them to do certain kind of installations in certain places that may be seen to be underdeveloped or disadvantaged. And then three, should be consumer protection. Because consumer protection, because you realize that individuals are most likely to have less power over large institutions or corporations like the telecoms. And so the NCC should protect their customers. But to my mind, issues of fixing prices, I don't see any reason why the telcos have to go to NCC if they have to increase prices. Because as far as I'm concerned, they are in business and they have also done it in such a manner that, yes, it's an oligopolistic market, not necessarily perfect competition. But even the oligopolistic markets, if you go take a look at the market models for oligopoly, you realize that it is impossible for you to just fix prices anyhow. So essentially, once the competition is rife and the competition is healthy, to my mind, I think that there's absolutely no way we should even be talking about regulation of prices. I mean, are we regulating how much Coke is versus Pepsi? So those are the kind of things I say. However, in terms of whether the 10% or 50% or 300%, I need to look at the numbers. But I can tell you for free that from where I sit, the kind of business that I do, I have retail clients in this country asking for 300% increase. And some of them have, I mean, look, it is what it is.
Well, Dr. Keremi, at the end of this whole conversation for us on this program right now is about consumer protection or consumer interests being preserved. FCCPC recently also put out a statement warning the telcos that you guys must improve telecom services. Well, warnings usually come with consequences. I'm not sure what the else is yet, but that's what that is coming out. Do you see that as something significant?
Yes, and that's why I said regulation from a customer or consumer protection standpoint, which says that if a fair pay deserves a commensurate service, that's important. And to the extent that you and I may not be able to take on the machinery of these huge corporations, we need somebody to protect us. So I totally agree that, yes, that's important. And indeed, if the telcos or whoever the players are found to be wanting, the consumers must be compensated. And indeed, I also think sanctions should be imposed on the players. But I think that's a fair deal. But I'm talking about pricing. I'm not certain that price fixing should be the purview.
Well, that's a good. We'll probably come back to that one. Dr. Chufukumbanjo, FCCPC is saying that operators must clearly communicate the rationale for the tariff adjustments to consumers, ensuring they are fully informed about how these changes align with efforts to improve service delivery and infrastructure. Do you think that kind of communication has even gone out at all?
Quite honestly, that has been a situation over the years that has not been addressed. Quality of service. Yes, they seem to want to address it, but yet the reality is the services are, sometimes it will be so poor, sometimes it will improve, the poor will improve a bit, and then it will go back again. For instance, if you now want to do a POS transaction, or you want to now do some transfers, 6, 7 out of every 10 transfers may go through seamlessly. But the other 3 or 4, sometimes you will have to now wait for another 6-7 hours before you are notified, before you are credited. I mean, that seeing the alert that you have been credited. Sometimes it's the following morning. It has caused a lot of problems within subscribers and POS operators.
But Chief,
yes.
Why is it that OPay seems to go all the time? Because if you have noticed, most traders, most Uber drivers, they all use OPay. And when you ask them why, they tell you, say, your credits immediately, even before you have stepped out of the car.
OPay, PalmPay, MoneyPoint is because they are driven by phones. Just remove the first O. Yes, the rest 10 now forms your account number.
Okay.
So, because even whatever it is, within 5-6 minutes maximum,
yes,
you will have a connection, and then the transaction will go through.
Are you saying it is not going through the telcos?
It does go through the telcos. It definitely goes through the telcos. But somehow, because it is phone-based, it goes through after the signal comes to the phone immediately.
So the problem then is between the telcos and the banks?
Precisely.
Okay.
Precisely.
All right. Doctor, telecom services are a critical component of the economy, and this hike will cascade into other sectors, thereby contributing to a general rise in prices. And this in a time where we are saying that we want to expand our economy. People are definitely going to use telco services more sparingly. They will only make calls when they absolutely have to. I'm not going to just wake up in the morning and call Ayo to say, Ayo, so how are you today? Mamanko? Papanko? I mean, all those kinds of calls are definitely going to be ruled out because people can't afford to make those calls anymore. So how is this going to affect the economy on the whole?
So let me say something from an economy standpoint. In economics, there's something we call a stable equilibrium, and there's something we call an unstable equilibrium. The bottom line about, these technical jargons I've spoken just speaks to whether a distortion in prices will lead to a new equilibrium early enough or not. So a stable equilibrium says that, yes, when we say stable equilibrium, does not necessarily mean that prices will not change, because equilibrium price is the price which demand and supply get to meet by the Adam Smith invisible hands. But we are saying that, when there's a price distortion, is the market dynamics going to lead to a new equilibrium price, or will it continue to spiral out of equilibrium? And I agree with you that there are certain things that are in the markets that a distortion in those prices would lead to an unstable equilibrium. But I do not think that telecoms is part of those factors that would lead to an unstable equilibrium. Let's take a look at this. If today foreign exchange prices have changed, and yes, inflation still is spiraling, but we will definitely get an equilibrium. If fuel prices have changed, and invariably, of course, prices increase, invariably we will get an equilibrium. I believe that, yes, the cost of telecoms increasing will affect a lot, particularly services. Many people's business depends on telecommunications. And I heard you when you asked about what happens to POS when transactions are done. And I heard what Chief said about I have He spoke well, but I have some other things to say about it. But that's not the question you asked me. So let me not digress into that. So essentially, I'm saying yes. While telecoms is an important factor of production, particularly in service-oriented economies, I will say that a hike in telecoms does not necessarily mean that we will not get back to equilibrium. This is not the first time that we've experienced increases in this kind of service. So I think that this is just one of these that have happened, occasioned by what I call a recalibration of this economy. Because what has happened is completely a recalibration, and it's just very unfortunate that it's hitting all of us. Because what has happened is that, just like you said in the introduction of this particular segment, that when they took these decisions to deregulate the forex market and to remove the fuel subsidies, which are not necessarily bad decisions from an economic standpoint. However, the moment they did that, it was as if they turned on a switch to say that the cost upon Nigerians will increase astronomically. However, nobody was able to provide the capability or the roadmap to guarantee that the earnings of Nigerians would increase commensurately. Because after all, the fuel prices in Nigeria is not much higher than what some other countries are paying. But the reason why some of these countries do not complain about high prices is because they have the earning power. I think the real issues that we should address and unpack would not necessarily be this cost, but the earning power of Nigerians. What must we do? What must the leadership of this country do to guarantee that Nigerians are able to earn not only a living wage, but a livable wage?
All right. Well, Chief Ogunbanjo, what would be your, should I say, what would you expect from subscribers now? To just accept their fate? I mean, since you say that NLC's approach of a protest is not going to do the magic, and this is an investment, and to the question that I asked earlier, there hasn't been any significant communication from the telcos that this is going to happen. They're just going to begin to experience it. So what should the subscribers do now? Don't the telecom operators owe the subscriber the duty of communicating and justifying the increase, based on what the FCCPC said?
Excuse me. Thank you very much. Only yesterday we had engaged the Nigerian Communications Commission through a plea. We pleaded with them to please revert from 50% to 10%. We pleaded with them to do that. And hopefully they will hear the cry of subscribers. We'll give them up to Tuesday evening to, get back to us. And somehow, by the time you look at what FCCPC is saying, they have tacitly approved the 50%, so that when they now get these funds, they are now saying, after getting the funds, you must improve service quality. That 50% is too much. Though in business they say there is no excessive profit. If you buy something for 1 naira and you sell it for 1,000 naira, business says it's not excessive. But sometimes we consumers say some profits are exploitative. So a situation where you are now going to 50% increase, we think is exploitative. That is why we are pleading with the NCC to please look at, if it's not, in the nation today, if it's not electricity ban tariff hike, it is a petrol hike. If it's not petrol hike, it is passport, international passport hike, all sorts of hike. Now, in addition, we now have telecoms tariff hike. Rest us a bit. Let us,
So in the event that the NCC doesn't heed this plea, what happens?
By Tuesday, if they don't get back to us, we have no other choice. And that is why we want to plead with NLC not to mess up the industry by protesting. We will seek legal redress in court as it's a civil matter, really.
Chief, are you saying that there was no consultation between the associations in that industry with the NCC before this decision was taken? This 50% decision?
There was. On January 9, that's about 3 weeks or so, 2-3 weeks ago, NCC called stakeholders to Abuja. And we were all there. But that meeting, what happened at that meeting was that every stakeholder, submitted or laid down our positions that this is what we want. NCC also stated theirs, but no decision was reached. All stakeholders just, relayed their positions on the table. This is what we want. That is what, and NCC also said the same thing. Although before that, the Honorable Minister of the Communication and the General Economy had said that we will not approve the 100% increase of the telcos that the telcos demanded, but there's going to be an increase. So in the same vein, yes, a tariff hike is necessary, but not more than 10%. That's what we are saying. And look for other options to raise funds.
Doctor, many people have suggested that the telcos were making huge profits, that maybe their profits have reduced, not that they're making losses. So there is no justification for a 50% increase in tariff.
Well, I mean, again, you heard what Chief said, that the maxim is that there's no such thing as excessive profit. There's balance. However, again, whilst many people can say many things, I personally am constrained not to be able to speak by my own training without having all the facts on my. Like I said earlier, it would be nice. I would have liked to even do an analysis of the cost structure of the telcos. And then when I have done that, I will then be able to say without equivocation whether a 1% or even a reduction is what is fair, so to speak, or perhaps it could be 300%. But one thing I do know is that it's impossible for you to flog a child and ask the child not to cry. In basic economics, and in fact, it's a principle of life, it's cause and effect. Whatever we do has consequences. So if the markets have increased the cost of production, like I said earlier, it's either you are expecting the telecoms to subsidize. And when I say subsidy now, subsidy could be explicit, it could be implicit. Just like you said, explicit subsidy means that they will be absorbing losses, while implicit losses means that there's an opportunity cost. If you are talking about maybe they have a lot of reserves already that they could have taken out of those reserves. But whichever way you look at it, there's a subsidy involved. So it's either they want to continue to subsidize or they have to hike prices. This is just the bottom line of the game. Nobody can deny that their costs, and perhaps significantly too. Because one of the things I see is that everywhere you see telecoms, you have masts, and all sorts of towers and base stations all over the place, they must be powered. And if these towers and communication stations happen to be in places where there are electricity tariff band A, take a look at the percentage of the cost increase. And even if they are not in electricity tariff band A, it then suggests that the electricity supply from the national grid will be very few hours, which then implies that they have to power with fossil fuel. And of course, you also know that the removal of subsidy, of course, the diesel subsidy has been removed ages. So you realize that their costs have increased significantly. And all the equipment that they are using, whatever the equipment they are talking about, is it Siemens, is it Huawei, is it Cisco, whatever it is, they are importing. And the cost has increased significantly from 400 and some to 1,500. It's impossible for us to say that we shouldn't react.
Okay. Chief, we've run completely out of time. So your last word on this matter.
Well, we want to appeal to the NCC again to please reduce the 50% tariff hike to 10% and encourage the telcos to look into the market for more funds. Let NCC also champion consult with the CBN to ensure that the banks also pay them, and then within themselves, let them pay themselves so that we'll all enjoy a good service delivery.
Okay, thank you very much. Chief Deolu Ogunbanjo, National President, National Association of Telecom Subscribers, NATCOM, who was with us in the studio in Lagos. And we also had Dr. Yele Okeremi, Chief Executive Officer of Precise Financial Systems Limited, who joined us virtually. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming to share your thoughts on this matter with us this morning.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.